Hi, it's Harold Monroe, Editor-in-Chief at the Vancouver Sun, here with Daphne Brahmam, and it's been a long election night. What do you see in the results? What's your big takeaway?
Well, the best thing is it wasn't as long a night as the BC election.
No, that's
so we
true.
Can be grateful for that.
That's true.
No, I mean it's very interesting. We are going to have a minority Liberal government. The interesting thing about this minority Liberal government, of course, is that it has essentially no seats in the prairie provinces, in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and has only a few seats in Manitoba. So they will be looking to British Columbia in some ways for the Liberals here to represent the West, and the Liberals did lose a seat here. They lost Vancouver Granville to Jody Wilson-Raybould, who was a cabinet minister in Justin Trudeau's previous government and left the party over a disagreement with Mr. Trudeau. It was certainly a seat that the Liberals wanted to take back. It was a seat that would have in some ways vindicated their party leader, but Jody Wilson-Raybould will be in the government. And the interesting question is, will she vote with the Liberals?
Right. Well, that was interesting because her counterpart, Jane Philpott, who also ran as independent, looked like she was finishing third. I'm not sure where she ultimately finished.
That's the last time.
And this looked to be close early on, but then Wilson-Raybould seems to be pulling away as the night goes on. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how she votes, and it'll perhaps depend on the issues because she's not a big fan of the pipeline either. And that is going to be the million-dollar question with a Liberal minority needing to be propped up by the NDP. One of the big issues perhaps could be pipeline, but you were with Jagmeet Singh yesterday. What do you think he's going to be looking for?
Well, first of all, Jagmeet Singh did win his seat in Burnaby South. It looked a bit tight for a while, but he
pulled away.
He did pull away. But the New Democrats, didn't have a particularly good night. They've lost almost 20 seats over what they had the last time. They held on. He managed to keep them from being completely obliterated, which some people were talking about earlier on. They were thinking maybe the Greens would get more. But Jagmeet Singh is playing it very close to the vest. He's got a lot of people around him who have worked with BC Premier John Horgan. He's getting lots of advice from them. He's talked to John Horgan. Mr. Singh told me he's a fan of minority governments, and he noted that when he first released the platform way back in June, which seems like a century ago, but when he introduced their platform, the real emphasis in the NDP platform in June was on healthcare, extending healthcare, adding pharmacare, adding dental care, adding coverage for glasses and hearing and so on. So he was really talking at the beginning of this campaign about healthcare as being a huge priority for them. And he invoked the name of Tommy Douglas, and it's Tommy Douglas who propped up the 1960s minority governments of Lester B. Pearson, and it was Lester B. Pearson's minority governments that brought in health care, Canada pension plans, student loans, and a number of, they abolished capital punishment. So that I think is some of what is in the back of Mr. Singh's mind, is that I doubt very much that they will make an agreement, a written agreement as the Greens have with the NDP here, because the margin for the Liberals is big enough that they won't need that. They don't need a firm agreement. They will be able to go vote by vote if they're careful.
Right. And on something like the pipeline, of course, the Conservatives would vote with them, so they won't have to worry about that. It's more a confidence vote and what might happen around budgets. And the Liberals have not made any secret of the fact that they're prepared to run up deficits. They're not looking to balance the budget during this term. NDP's the same way, Greens are the same way, so I think they're going to be pretty safe there. It's only the Conservatives that will.
And the Bloc Québécois. I mean, the other thing is that the NDP do need to be careful that they don't get outmaneuvered in some ways, because the Bloc Québécois has enough seats as well that they could prop up whatever government it is. And so, I think for Mr. Trudeau, hopefully he's been humbled by the loss of seats. Hopefully he will be a bit different in this term, but hopefully too we haven't in this election, because of its divisiveness, that we haven't seen the reigniting of Quebec separatism, and hopefully, there's going to be some way to breach and bring back, or not breach, but bridge this incredible blue spot in the middle of the country.
Yes.
And so how the Liberals do that is going to take a great deal of skill. It's going to take a lot of Mr. Trudeau trying to find allies who might be from the progressive part of the Conservative Party in order to try and bring them back on. And I think the other thing that we really need to look for is, I think Mr. Trudeau, he would have been out had he not won. I think the same for Mr. Singh had he not made the gains, had he not managed to hold on. I think he would have been replaced as leader. The question now is, does Andrew Scheer stay on as leader, or do we see those progressives within the Conservative Party saying, you know what, we really need another big tent party in this country, and will they start a movement to, in fact, get rid of Mr. Scheer? Or, I mean, we may see someone like Jason Kenney, who was busy campaigning. We may see him, but
That might be difficult, though. He did not perform well, Mr. Scheer, in the centre of Canada, where you need to perform well to win governments in Ontario and Quebec. But, I mean, they did win the popular vote, barely, it looks like, over the Liberals, but not enough to make a difference.
But they did sideline Doug Ford. And so
Yes.
there may have been people in their base that didn't like that
Yes.
Doug Ford decided.
Yeah,
But Lisa Raitt won
lost her
riding.
seat. No, she lost her seat. Yes,
because
yes.
I think I was thinking that had she won, she might have been a progressive they would go to. So there was talk during the campaign that people were already looking to have Peter MacKay as an alternative to Mr. Scheer. So the days ahead they're going to be great for political watchers.
It's going to be great, and by tomorrow morning, everything will be a little more clear than it is now. Just a few loose ends to tie up tonight.